Hello from Athens. It was a tough month here in Greece, but at last now we have a preliminary agreement on some prior actions which will form the basis for opening negotiations on another impossible bailout deal. Well, if this isn't good news, I don't know what is. Speaking of an impossible deal, our government has agreed to sell off public assets to the tune of 50 billion euros. Perhaps this should be a cause of some worry for us Greeks, especially if we consider that we'll be the last ones to get our hands on any of that cash. The first 25 billion will go to the banks, thank God, another 12.5 billion towards the repayment for our debt, and the rest will go to Greece. Money at last! It's like these housewives who go around nowadays selling aloe vera gel, aloe vera shakes, makeup, shampoo, bubble bath, shaving gel, laxatives, all of it made from the most delicate wild aloe flowers gathered by blind ex-goths gone Bedouin nomads. If you sell 5,000 euros worth of merchandise in a month, you get to keep 1,000 euros for you. Of course, it's more likely that you'll run off and become a blind ex-goth gone Bedouin nomad yourself than that you'll rake in 5,000 euros selling this crap. This 50 billion euro joke is nothing new. They first tried it out on a live audience in the previous deal between Greece and its creditors. We were supposed to have already made that money by mid-2015. Everyone who heard it back then had a good laugh, and Greece managed to make 3.2 billion euros worth of public property, which means that we are just 94% under target. Land ahoy! Keep rowing! There's many a kink in this plan. For instance, when we tried to sell off some lovely beaches on the Ionian Sea, we found out that almost 7,000 illegal houses were already standing on them. So really, there's just one logical conclusion. We have to get creative and daring. We must cast aside rules, principles, and emotional attachments. This time, we come prepared. This time, we have a plan B.
Greece may have to sell islands and ruins as part of bailout deal, and this is from Time.
Yep, that's right, you got it. The time has come to sell the Acropolis of Athens. In the next few minutes, we're going to run through all of the arguments. We will shower you with a solid body, what? Of reasons, financial, historical, and psychological to convince you that our proposal is absolutely watertight. When the idea was first introduced, the Greeks were against it. Big mistake. An advisor at the Greek Ministry of Labour, Mr. Varemas, insisted that there should be limits on profiting from ancient ruins. Wrong again. The Acropolis, he said, is priceless. Now you're talking. Bingo! This is one of those cases where you're trying to prove something and then you realize that you've gone and proven the exact opposite. The Acropolis is priceless, you schmuck. That's why we've got to sell it. To quote Josef Slaman, a member of Merkel's Christian Democrat Party, those in insolvency have to sell everything they have to pay their creditors. And when we say everything, we mean everything. Mr. Drutsas said that he'd also heard of the idea to sell the Acropolis, but now wasn't the time to talk about, well, the times they are a-changing. Perhaps it wasn't the time then, but what about now? To cut a long story short, the Press Project is starting an international campaign for the sale of the Parthenon marbles. We've been trying for so many decades to get the Elgin marbles back without any success, so it's time to reverse tactics. We propose that the Greek government organize a well-thought-out plan to hawk the rest of the marbs to the English, or in fact to anyone who might be interested. Join us in the campaign which we've titled Merkel, you bitch! I got 51 billion, keep the change. All we ask is that, should our efforts prove successful, the Parthenon marbles from now on be called ThePressProject marbles. Elgin got to give his name to the marbles that he sold off to the British Museum. Why shouldn't we get the same? A solution like this, to pack up the rocks and send them to England, or to have the English come over here and buy them, will give Greece not just a financial boost, but a moral and psychological one as well. It will be a sign of our present-day awesomeness. No longer will we have to swing from Pericles' balls just to get some respect. And if you look at it from a psychological perspective, Unloading the Parthenon marbles would help us Greeks put on our big girl panties, for what else is this huge building towering over Athens but a constant reminder that we are never going to match up to our ancestors? It is as if you inherited a family business, just to hear your father go on and on about how he worked his ass off to build it from nothing, and now you're just going to go and drive it into the ground, you and your idiot friends. It's a life of constant stress, always disappointing the father figure. Just sell the damn business, Dad. I'm opening a tiki bar. After the classical era, the Acropolis embodied each and every phase of Greek civilization. It became a Christian church during the 5th century AD, and after the 15th century a mosque with a minaret added on top, which sadly has not survived. Anyone who's been following the story knows very well that England has long been entertaining this idea, hence Agatha Christie's secret mission to the Acropolis, captured on film here. This is actually Agatha Christie visiting the Parthenon, so the idea should be viewed in a positive light. First of all, today's Greeks have nothing to do whatsoever with the classical Greeks. Really, we're just the descendants of Turks and Albanians who kept on living in the country after Greece won its independence from the Ottoman Empire. Nor do we have anything in common in terms of culture, especially since most modern Greek scholars of antiquity actually go to university abroad. So, in reality, it would be much easier if they could visit the Parthenon marbles in London or Berlin, where they actually studied. Another idea we're considering is to follow the advice of a Greek intellectual who once said that modern Greece is a privy built by Philhellenes on the ruins of an ancient temple, and build a John in its place. For our cause to get rid of the Parthenon marbles, we have managed to enlist celebrities as acclaimed as Justin Bieber, Beyoncé and Oscar Wilde. We chose these celebrities just because of their good looks, with the exception of Oscar Wilde, who's been selected because he's the only one who agreed to a photo in our national dress. Schwarzenegger declined at the very last minute, as you can see here. We've gone and recruited these celebrities since many people think that the fate of our old campaign to reclaim the Parthenon marbles would have been successful if Melina Mercouri hadn't been so darn ugly.
Of the monument, they have torn down, they have destroyed this monument. It is part of the monument, of unique monument.
There are many unique monuments.
I know. You say that, Mr.
Well, I mean, let's say the
They
seven
are
Greece is
many
in
Parthenon.
Delphi. It is not in the Parthenon.
They are many Parthenon.
There are two major taboos surrounding the legacy of Melina Mercouri, which no one has broken till today. The first is that, let's be honest guys, she looked like the back end of a bus. The second is that she was minister under the PASOK administration, which is not a good thing over here. So this is why we have thankfully failed up till now at reclaiming the Elgin marbles. Now we have a second chance to start a new cause, the opposite cause, not to get the marbles back, but to get rid of both the ones we've still got and our national debt in one fell swoop. Here on the Greek side, people have been overwhelmed with typical Mediterranean emotion. Take it easy guys, truth be told, the Brits haven't been so reserved in their comments on the matter. Take for instance Sidney Smith's statement that Lord Elgin has done a very useful thing in taking them away from the Turks. Do not throw pearls to swine. They would have been destroyed there, or the French, which is obviously slightly worse than swine, would have had them. That was rather unfortunate, and in the end counterproductive for our cause of unloading the monuments. When you sell your car, you don't have to be wild about your buyer, you just sell the thing. Besides, putting the marbles in the British Museum will help protect them from irresponsible visitors who damage them by touching them.
Η Μελίνα Μερκούρη, πολύ πριν γίνει Υπουργός Πολιτισμού, ανέβαινε στον Παρθενώνα και χάιδευε τα μάρμαρα που έχουν απομείνει από την λαιλασία του Έλγιν και πολλοί την έχουν δει να κλαίει κάτω από τις αρχαίες κολόνες.
Under a pillar. If you come to think of it, anybody under a pillar would cry. What else is there to do? Of the arguments we've heard up till now, the most compelling one is that we Greeks are incompetent when it comes to protecting ancient sculpture. But that argument was seriously undermined when this came to light.
And he got the workmen to scrape some of the sculptures, at least we don't know quite how many, with metal tools, with wire brushes, with copper chisels, and with carborundum, which is then the hardest substance other than diamond known to science, in an effort to make them more white.
Back in the 30s, Lord Devine had given instructions to clean up the sculptures. They stripped off all the original paint color with wire brushes and chemicals, since back then they thought that ancient monuments and sculptures were supposed to be white. In other words, Devine made his guys scrub off the true colors of the Parthenon marbles at the very same time that the British Museum was questioning us Greeks' ability to protect them. To be fair though, if you looked at the sculptures in their original color, they looked a bit garish and gaudy. This is not an ancient Greek statue, but had it been one, it would be painted like this. It's a bit like looking at the Venus de Milo through beer goggles. The truth is that this is not the first time something like this has happened. The last time was when they cut off the genitals of Greek sculptures to protect the sensitivities of Victorian ladies visiting the museum. What is even more fascinating is that they still keep all those cocks and balls in a drawer at the museum. Hello? This is the dick department of the British Museum. We might need a disinfection unit over here. Seems like we got crabs. The truth is that this has been happening since antiquity. Now, not the crab thing, the mutilation. As, amongst others, in the case of a statue of Ganymede, the famous cupbearer of the gods. But it's a different thing for the ancients to have done it themselves, leading today's archaeologists to uncover an authentic Ganymede sans bollocks. If the Brits are not good enough, we could always send the marbles to Berlin. But on the other hand, what do I care? After I have cashed in, let them mutilate the damn thing as much as they want. Just not my pig, not my farm. Let's get back to the real issue. They say the idea is utterly depraved, since it means exploiting ancient monuments for financial gain. Oh, geez, next thing you know, they'll be selling tickets at museums. But really, it makes total sense to exploit works of art for money. What is truly bizarre is the idea that someone would ever refuse to sell them off. There's absolutely no reason to get upset about it. I think of the nightmare that our poet George Seferis once had, where foreigners chopped up every column of the Parthenon to look like giant tubes of toothpaste. Oh, come on, give me a break. Again with the Seferis? What's the problem here? After all, this ad makes the columns into Coke bottles. Just to look at her, even prettier than the real thing. So you see that this kind of reaction is totally unproductive. Schäuble knows what he's doing. That's all that matters. In 1990, he was head of the West German delegation for the reunification of the two Germanys. The agency that oversaw the process of privatization in East Germany, the Treuhandanstalt, was pretty much the same as our own Troika. But at least we refused to let our own version piss off to Luxembourg with the profits from privatization. Ha! Got them again. But anyway, the Treuhand was an unbelievably effective solution. 2.5 out of 4 million members of the workforce ended up unemployed, and 180 people were prosecuted for bribery. The head of it all, Wilfred Glock, was even sentenced to 5.5 years in prison for corruption. The whole thing reeked so much of scandal that the company's director, Detlef Carsten Roeder, was murdered in a terrorist attack. And Schäuble, as we all know, was shot and permanently disabled by a deranged man who for years had been complaining that the German government was sending out transmissions that made his body ache. It's quite the unexpected blow, like the junkie who died when he fell off his bike. In any case, the Treuhand didn't manage to pull in any profit for the German people. But isn't that just like money, to be totally heartless? C'est la vie. If it's not the Acropolis, then it's going to be the ports and the airports, the power company and the waterworks. So let's give them the Acropolis, which is really just a symbol anyway. Besides, antiquities are always ripe for exploitation, whether financial or political. Kostas Simitis, former Prime Minister of Greece, got right to the heart of the matter with amazing honesty when he spoke to Tony Blair about it.
I think we should begin to talk about intelligence. To tell you some good news. No, sorry. tell me how your idea about this is so personal. Okay, if I'm listening because I like to know if we do something. There are the elections.
He's got this style like, hey mate, can you spare some change for the bus so I can get home? I'm all out of dash. As to the tourism argument, the income that the Acropolis brings in for the government, well, that's old news. The same argument that generally applies to privatization applies here too. Well, sure, it's profitable, but what kind of idiot would ever buy anything that's not? When you sell something, you also sell its future profits. Haven't you heard? We've learned that hard way over the last 5 years. But if we put aside for a moment concerns of strict national interest and concentrate just on our love for the Acropolis, it's actually the case that loads more people will be able to visit it if only we'd just package it up and ship it off to a prettier city, send it off to somewhere nice. Now we come to my last argument. There's a very simple test to see if someone really loves antiquities, or if they've just been sucked into the ideological barrage that demands we take pride in the glory of the ancient Greeks. These marbles are sculptures. So just ask any fanatical supporter of the marble's return to name one, just one, contemporary sculptor. Someone who can't even think of a single sculptor should probably spend his time thinking about other things and let us worry about issues we actually know a little bit about. Business, to put it a little differently. Come on, it's just art. Are you really an art lover? No. So just let us do our job. Get over yourselves. Help us sell the rest of the Parthenon sculptures to the British Museum. If you really want to support our cause, you can buy one of our t-shirts with the slogan, "Good Riddance," for a Greece free of antiquity. We've also put together a little advertising spot to help Greeks and non-Greeks alike get over all their hang-ups about this. We're offering it here, free of charge, to the Greek government.
The Acropolis. This highly adjustable structure is perfectly adaptable to any use. Sparse yet tasteful, open air and open concept, easily customized with your own minaret. Good bones, in need of a little TLC, a DIYer's dream, full of old world charm. The Acropolis, built to suit, with tolerable vistas and views of Athens' famous Acropolis from across the street. This property also boasts a courtyard and ample space for parking. Ruined historic walls can be restored to block out surrounding urban blight. Located in the eclectic Petrolona neighborhood of Athens. The Acropolis, impress your friends. The perfect love nest, your own romantic hideaway. Great McDonald's franchising potential. The Acropolis, live the myth for just $51 billion. Hassle-free payment options, now with a special offer. Buy Delphi along with it, and we'll throw in Thebes as our no-strings gift to you. The Acropolis, join our campaign. Merkel, you biatch, I got $51 billion, keep the change.